So the curse continues. Another regional, another X-2 finish. Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc. So, like I said, Carta Magica this weekend had our first regional of the season. First one I got to participate in, and I had a lot of fun, honestly. This was a no starter decks allowed, so no Mastemon, no Imperial. So keep that in mind when we talk about, our matchups and when we go over the deck and things like that. But yeah, X2 unfortunately just could not make it. Only went 7 rounds, so there was a ton of X2s, like an exceptional amount of X2s. It was pretty crazy. But overall, I had a blast. Of course, I will be going to Acon this weekend to participate in another regional. So if you're there, definitely come and say hi if you see me. Always love meeting people that, watch my channel and like the content that I put out. Also, don't forget our new memory marker this month is Demi Vmon. So if you're playing some Armor Rush or some Imperial, this is a fantastic memory marker for that. That's what I'm using for my Imperial and my Armor Rush decks. Both is this little guy, super cute. Perfect memory marker for that deck. You can find that on our Etsy store, link in the description below. Also there you can find all of our previous memory markers that we've had on the channel, as well as some of our Battle Ready Inc. merch. And if you're going to be at Acon this weekend and are interested in seeing any of these, definitely put in the comment section below if you'd like me to bring one of them, so that way you can see it in person to see if you want to buy one or not. All right, so first, let's just pull up the deck list for you guys to see what I was working with. Now, again, remember, there was no starter deck, so I couldn't play Imperial, which, like I've stated before, was my go-to deck for this format. Been saying it for a while now that it was going to be, arguably the best deck. Now, we have been seeing a ton of security control taking over, so keep that in mind as well when you're trying to decide on what deck you want to play. Lots of good stuff throwing down in this format. But what I was running was Armor Rush. This was actually my wife's deck, and so I just had all the pieces already, and it was literally the only BT8 deck that I had available, so I went and just rolled with it, and honestly, did very well with it. Now, there was a few shortfalls that I need to address and make up for by updating this. Still debating if I want to run this at Acon or run Imperial once that is available, since it will be available for Acon. But a lot of the stuff is what we've covered before in the armor deck profiles we've done. The Upamon, since you don't have a whole lot of jamming here, Upamon is going to be your best draw target. You need all the draws you can get. You only basically Evo one time into like an armor, and so your draws can be limited. I have this Vmon in here, so this is if you have 7 cards or less in your hand, draw one. This card was incredible. Like, out of all the Vmons, besides like the jamming Vmon, this card probably put in more work than any other Vmon. I've seen so many people that are like, oh yeah, just like a 2 of, if you don't see it early game, it's not good. Well, if you want to see it early game, you gotta bump up those numbers to increase your chances and likelihood of seeing this early game. You have to increase those numbers, and even then, like mid game, this deck is not built to go past mid game. If you go into long game, you're probably losing because your opponent just has so much built up. If you get to mid game, you're still drawing a ton. There was plenty of times where it was like, oh, I've got 8 cards in my hand. Well, let me just play, this Hammer Spark, or let me just play this Fire Rocket. Whatever these little cards were, that just lowered my hand down just enough. And it was just so many times I could trigger this constantly. I drew more cards off of this Vmon than I did off the Upamon or anything else. Like, literally, this Vmon put in a tremendous amount of work. Honestly, the biggest letdown was this Searcher Vmon. So many misses in general off this Vmon. Definitely got to swap this out for the starter deck one, because the starter deck one searches any free type, so you can add any of your Vmons. So if you hit a Vmon, you can add a Vmon. That was like my biggest complaint right there, was this guy just did not perform very well at all. The armor count is pretty standard here, 444. Chimeramon is the next big thing, which is kind of a flex spot for the deck, depending on how you want to run it. Honestly, this card was a huge letdown. You're almost never going to DNA Digivolve on this, into this. Giving up 2 armors that you could be like attacking with. You're pretty much never going to attack with 2 armors and they both survive, and then you can Chimera. I never had 2 armors suspended at the same time. Even if I had a Chimera or targets on the field field. I don't think I ever at any time had 2 armor suspended on field that I could have DNA'd with. And that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck is the minus 5,000 because you need all of your colors here. So you need the green, the red, the yellow, blue, and the white. You need all those to really get this guy kicked off. Now, there was plenty of times, he was 12,000 and could have put in some work being 12,000, but the DP minus is usually only like 3,000, sometimes 4,000, and that it helped a little bit, but wasn't like a tremendous like game swing. Honestly, like I would probably drop that Chimera. Now, I'm not saying I would run Pyldramon either. I don't think Pyldramon's a good way to go, simply because you're going to get 2 attacks with an 8K. Like, plenty of times where I armor released, and, even Flamedramon armor released, Magnamon armor released, like, Pyldramon would just die on the first check. That 4 Evo cost Pyldramon, I still don't think is the way to go in this deck. I think there's just better alternative routes. Even, like, Shakuamon to Recovery 1 might be a better level 5 than Chimera or Pyldramon, and I firmly stand by that. I don't think Pyldramon is the way to go. Just doesn't make sense. Not without that jamming inheritable like it gets in Imperial. Everything else in here is pretty good. Armor texture, getting hit in security was pretty awesome. Fire Rocket put in a ton of work whenever I would hard play it. I didn't have a single time where the security effect mattered though. The block, delete one of your opponent's blockers. I thought originally that the X antibody inheritable, that gives blocker, but it's only on the opponent's turn, which is so like specifically well like tuned for that deck, that it dodges Fire Rocket. It's like, hey, we're gonna make this both these cards in the same set, and Fire Rocket literally can't kill anything in the set. Like, okay, what? How are you gonna do that to Fire Rocket like that? But that it's okay. The security attack +1 is why we run it, and it was phenomenal. Fire Rocket just kicked butt all weekend. One play cost, security attack +1 on an armor, because you're gonna armor release on the first and then the second one, especially if your VMon is your jamming VMon is under your armor, because then it's like even more likely to survive. Fire Rocket, just incredible. I love it at a 4 of. Ice Walls busted. Hammer Spark, always good. Like, I never not useful all weekend long. Having 4 of made total sense for me. It got hit in security and did some great work in security. Gave me plenty of turns where I was at 2 and I needed to be at 3 for like a Magnamon, and just like let me go off and got more swings in, that sort of thing. So Hammer Spark, absolutely at 4 of. I'm still going to stick with it. The last card though, Plasma Shot, this was a big letdown for me. I know a lot of people are running this in their Armor Rush decks, and honestly, it just didn't do hardly anything for me. Basically, this deck falls short on like big removal. Anything big on field, you're just like SOL. You can't deal with it. The biggest wall I hit, like almost literally, was against Black War Greymon. When it has the blocker inheritable, basically it gets to unsuspend when it deletes something, makes it like a double blocker. It can block twice almost. That was so brutal. And then it was so big that Plasma Shot, you would need 8 armors in trash before you could kill that. That's just so impractical. Like I said, this deck cannot do long game. So by the time you got 8 armors in trash, you're basically already lost. So I'll be dropping Plasma Shot from the list also. Same with the Chimeramon. And just running some other kind of removal. There's the duo color, the green-blue one that, you can bounce a suspended target. I think that's a pretty good one. 5 play cost for that. With the Davis and Ken and the Lydramon, like, you've got a decent amount of things that'll stick on board. You just got to be a little bit more cautious, like maybe not just slam down the Lydramons so easily. But, and then make sure that when you get the opportunity, you play the Davis and Ken to make that option live in your hand, when you get the available chance. And that was pretty, that seems like a pretty good one. I looked at V-Wing Blade. It's like Kakaitis Breath, but it's only for level 6 and below. And, with this format not really running many level 7s, that's a pretty good target as well, just because, what do you have to deal with? The only thing that kind of scares me and makes me think maybe just run Kakaitis to be safe is Susanomon, just because, he is level 7. Security Control is like the most played deck right now, and it's the one that's winning like every single tournament. So maybe something, just to be a little safe to handle that guy if he hits the field. So Kakaida's Breath was definitely one I was looking at also. So yeah, it's either the duo colored one or Kakaida's Breath, I think, at this point. But that it's just a big debate which one you prefer more. I think the duo color one in security is a little bit better because you could suspend one target and then bounce another target. You get to pick which suspended one, whereas Kakaida's Breath is just bounce something. So that's kind of a bummer. I think the duo color one is definitely better in security, but aside from that, it's really just the same. Just a little bit cheaper also. So definitely a different removal. Plasma Shot I don't think is the way to go. I just did not have much luck with it. The minus 1,000 for like all of the opponent's Digimon, like it almost never came up. I think one time I got to use this on like a 4,000 DP and then also delete a rookie. Like one time ever in the whole tournament. And that was it wasn't even like a big problem. It was just like yeah, sure, I'll do this. It's not like it's a threat or like making me about to lose or anything like that. It's just I had it available and I just kind of did it and just set my opponent back a little bit. But really, it was all about the big threats that are the problem. Now for my matchups. Round 1 was against James, played Black War Greymon. His secondary level 5 was Chimeramon instead of the Piercing Metal Greymon, so that was pretty cool. And he was running the BT1 War Greymon, so turning off all those security options, which is what I was saying last week. I was like, that's definitely like the way to go to play Black War Greymon is with that BT1 War Greymon. Just for this meta, with security control being so prevalent like it is huge. But really what did me in was, like I was saying, the blocker Inheritable underneath Black War Greymon was just, for this deck, extremely difficult to deal with, which is a big part of when I was revamping my removal and like my level 5 and stuff like that, dropping all those cards, just because, doing something different, because that was that was literally the most difficult thing all weekend was against that Black War Greymon deck. Was like a brick wall. The whole match was just so brutal. Next round was against Brian playing Shivamon. Just brick super bad. Like super bad. I think our match was over in like 10 minutes. Round 3 was against Steve playing Dan Devi, which was super cool. Oh my god, he played the blocker Devimon. At one point he had 4 out, and it's like I kept deleting them and like crashing over them with like Flame Dramons and stuff, and they kept blocking. And then he'd go into like Zwart and bring 2 more out, or then he would do Calling from Darkness and then bring them from trash back to hand, and then Evo them on top of his rookies from raising. And like literally, I think he cycled in one single game, 6, 7, maybe 8 times in one game is how many times he put those bodies on field in total. Just absolutely nuts. Eventually did take that one 2-0 as well. Shivamon was 2-0. The Black War Greymon was 0-2. Round 4 was against Michael playing Security Control. He got me 0-2 super hard. Rapidmon was like the MVP of this. I couldn't stick a body ever. Always had the threat in raising area of the rookie that's being able to promote up and just slaughter my board. So it's like I always had to like hide in raising area and then like get a bunch of tamers on board and then try to promote up an armor and then swing and then armor release and try to keep evoing using Davis and Ken to unsuspend, and I just couldn't get it. Like they just wouldn't die in security, so I couldn't armor release, and I didn't have like armor texture in hand to mask change into another one. It was just always like I can't clear this fast enough. And then, of course, all the recovery and everything like that. So that was a brutal matchup. I still don't know how to get around that matchup. It's so difficult because of the Rapidmon. You can't stick a body on field. Normally against Security Control, you just hard play like your level 4s, your level 3s, like everything. Just hard play. Don't try to ever Evo. And it's like, what does it matter when the Rapidmon can kill your whole deck whenever it wants? So that was huge. That's a difficult matchup for sure. You just got to outpace them and pray they brick and don't get into all their pieces fast enough. Next up was round 5 against Daniel. Played X Antibody, and I 2-0'd him. I knew if I waited too long, I wouldn't make it, and I think, it was like turn 4 every time, we took it. It was super close. It was like every time it was just like one turn away from he's about to go into a mega, and then I'm just not going to be able to do anything. And then, managed to barely take that. So it was close, but I think the armor could just outpace him just enough. Round 6 was 2-0 against Whale, I believe is how you say their name, Wael. It was the armor mirror match. It was pretty crazy. It was very, very control heavy. Of you would swing in and then or go like Lightramon and then delete their stuff. It was very much a clear their board of any threats, so that way they couldn't continuously attack you. They would have to hatch in raising and then evo into a Vmon in raising and like wait a turn out. So, and if ever a Vmon was ever hard played, you immediately go like Lightramon to clear it, that sort of thing. So it was a whole lot of that. I think the plasma shots did come in handy against that one in particular. So yeah, it was huge. Just control, stick a Magna so they can't get any free hits on you, and then you just chip away at them. And that's basically how we both played it. Did manage to take that one though, 2-0. And then round 7 was I got 2-1 against Martin playing Black War Greymon. So was able to redeem myself against Black War Greymon, but it was a whole lot of the same stuff. I think the big saving grace for me was turn 2. I cleared 4 security. It was like Fire Rocket on top of one of my armors and swung. And then we armor released and then unsuspended, went into another and swung again for 2 more security checks. It was like, turn 2 cleared out 4 security, and then I think turn 3 we just took it. That one was crazy, and the loss again was because of the blocker. Like once they stick that blocker out there, it's so difficult to get past because that's just you just don't have any way to remove it. So again, plasma shot coming out in favor of something that can remove, because once they stick that blocker, that Black War Greymon sticks that stupid blocker, level 5 or a mega. Like you're just, unless you can like time it out just right and get that Magnamon to go and swing over it while it's suspended, you just forget about it. It's not going to happen. So, definitely a way to deal with the Black War Greymon. If you have any insight for Armor Rush against Security Control, though, I'm definitely curious of what you've got. All in all, though, had a blast. Can't wait to play this deck again. I will have to share it with my wife, so I only can play it when she's not playing it. So I'll be playing some Imperial in the meantime, but I don't know what I'll be playing at Acon. She's not playing at Acon, so I have both decks at my disposal. Got to do some more play testing this week to figure out which one. Imperial clearly doing way better than Armor is, but I'm really loving this deck. I'm having a blast playing this. It's so much fun.